Hello and welcome to our channel. I'm so glad you've joined us today. In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into the incredible life story of one of the most influential figures in the tech industry, Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple. Now, you might be wondering, what does Steve Jobs have to do with improving your English? Well, the answer lies in the power of storytelling. You see, English isn't just about memorizing grammar rules or vocabulary. It's about connecting with stories, understanding people, and discovering new perspectives. And who better to learn from than someone whose life was filled with moments of both incredible success and painful failure? Today, you're not just going to hear a simple story. You're going to listen to how Steve Jobs overcame rejection, failure, and even being fired from the company he created. Through this story, we're going to explore valuable life lessons that can help you become more resilient, more creative, and more determined. Skills that will not only improve your personal life but also boost your English listening skills. The story of Steve Jobs is a perfect example of how setbacks don't define us. Instead, how we rise after those setbacks, and the mindset we adopt, shapes our future. And as we go through this journey, you'll get the chance to listen to real-world English, practice understanding different accents, and familiarize yourself with vocabulary used by one of the world's most iconic leaders. So, if you're looking to improve your English listening skills, this video is for you. But it's not just about English. It's about learning how to deal with failure, push forward with passion, and keep going even when the road gets tough. It's about believing in yourself, no matter what obstacles life throws your way. Let's start by taking a step back and looking at Steve Jobs before he became the global icon we know today. His journey began long before the iPhone, the MacBook, and the iPod. In fact, his road to success was filled with mistakes, challenges, and moments where things seemed like they were falling apart. But as you'll see, it was exactly those challenges that made him who he was. Are you ready? Let's jump into the life of Steve Jobs and find out how he turned failure into one of the greatest success stories in history. Remember, as we go through this story, pay attention to the vocabulary, the expressions, and the way Steve Jobs communicates. This is not just a lesson in English, but a lesson in life. Steve Jobs, founder of Apple, is one of the greatest figures in the public world. Steve Jobs, founder of Apple, is not only one of the most influential figures in the technology world but also a symbol of creativity, perseverance, and the ability to overcome failure. His life was not a red carpet as many people think. On the contrary, it was a journey full of challenges, failures, and decisions that seemed to make everything fall apart. However, it was those difficulties that were the strong motivation to help him create products that changed the world. And Jobs' story is not only a lesson about technology, but also a valuable lesson about life, perseverance, and endless desire. Childhood and early difficulties. Steve Jobs was born on February 24, 1955 in San Francisco, California. But unlike many other business founders, Jobs did not grow up in a wealthy family. He was adopted into a loving family but had a troubled upbringing. However, Jobs showed a strong passion for technology early on. Instead of pursuing a formal education, he dropped out of Reed College after just one semester. Despite dropping out, Jobs did not give up on his studies. He spent time taking classes that he was passionate about. One of the courses he took was an art design class, which later had a huge influence on Apple's product design. Jobs always believed that the knowledge he learned from seemingly unrelated things gave him a unique and profound insight into the world of technology. The beginning of Apple, the first steps. With the knowledge he gained from art classes and a passion for technology, Jobs began his entrepreneurial journey with his friend Steve Wozniak. They started with simple computers, the first being the Apple I, built in the Jobs family garage. At first, no one could have imagined that this would be the product that would usher in a technological revolution. Their company was then just a small group with a few employees, but Jobs' passion and determination pushed them further. However, the road was not smooth. The Apple I only sold a very small number, and then came the Apple II. Despite certain successes, maintaining and developing Apple was not easy. At this time, Jobs had to face many challenges from the competitive market and financial difficulties. Biggest challenge: Jobs was fired from Apple. But perhaps the biggest challenge in Jobs' career was being fired from the company he founded. In 1985, after conflicts with the board of directors, especially CEO John Sculley, Jobs was fired from Apple. This was a huge shock not only to Jobs but also to the entire technology industry at that time. A founder being fired, no one could imagine. Jobs was very hurt, and in the first days after being fired, he felt like he was falling into the abyss. But instead of falling, Jobs decided to move on. He did not stop, and it was during this time that he bought a small company called Pixar. Pixar and the transformation. Pixar was not a famous company at that time. However, Jobs invested time and effort into it, turning Pixar into one of the greatest animation production companies in the world. Toy Story, released in 1995, was not only a huge commercial success but also a breakthrough in animation technology. With this success, Pixar proved that creativity and technology can combine perfectly to create breakthrough products. Back to Apple and the Renaissance. In 1997, Apple was on the brink of bankruptcy. The company needed a drastic change and decided to invite Jobs back. Apple's revival was not easy. Jobs decided to cut many ineffective products and restructure the entire company. He introduced breakthrough products such as the iMac, iPod, and finally the iPhone, products that not only changed the face of Apple but also changed the technology industry. These decisions helped Apple become the most valuable company in the world for many years. The death of Steve Jobs and his legacy. Steve Jobs passed away on October 5, 2011, after a long battle with cancer. Although he is gone, his legacy lives on. Apple continues to grow, and the products Jobs created continue to influence millions of people around the world. Jobs was not just the founder of Apple, he was also a symbol of innovation, perseverance, and endless creativity. Steve Jobs' life is a testament to perseverance and self-belief. Despite facing many failures and challenges, Jobs never gave up on his dreams. One of the most important lessons we can learn from him is resilience and the ability to get back up after each fall. When you face difficulties, never think of it as the end. See it as an opportunity to learn and grow. Improve your English listening skills with Jobs stories. If you want to improve your English listening skills, start by listening to Steve Jobs' interviews and speeches. The clarity with which he conveys his ideas and emotions will help you improve your understanding and keep up with the pace of English. Pay attention to his vocabulary, sentence construction, and intonation in each speech. Don't forget to listen to interviews where Jobs shares his personal stories and real-life experiences. Steve Jobs was not only a groundbreaking innovator in the technology field, but also a person with invaluable life lessons that can be applied to many different aspects of life. These lessons not only help us overcome difficulties but also help us grow stronger, overcome challenges, and most importantly, never give up. 1. Be confident and believe in yourself. One of the biggest lessons from Steve Jobs is to believe in yourself. Jobs always believed that if you work with passion and belief, everything will be successful. Even though he was fired from the company he founded, he did not let that failure define him. Instead, Jobs saw it as an opportunity to try new things. It was his perseverance and self-confidence that helped Jobs overcome difficult times and bring Apple back to the top. 2. Embrace failure and learn from it. Jobs' life was full of failures. From being fired from Apple, to failures when his products were not well received, he had to face many challenges. However, he never considered failure as the end. Jobs always saw failure as an opportunity to learn, grow, and start over. Failure is an indispensable part of the journey to success. The important thing is that you need to learn how to get up, correct your mistakes, and move on. 3. Create meaningful products and work. Steve Jobs always emphasized the creation of products that not only have technological value but also bring real value to users. He wanted Apple products to change the world and improve people's lives. This was reflected in his work, where he never accepted working just to make money or creating products for profit. Every decision he made had to be linked to 4. Continuous innovation and creativity. Jobs is a typical example of a relentless creator. He always finds ways to break all limits, always experiment with new ideas, and is never satisfied with what he has achieved. He always said, "Just work and create, don't be afraid of failure." This is a powerful message that we can apply in our lives and work. 5. Focus on quality, not quantity. One of the outstanding characteristics of Steve Jobs is his focus on quality rather than quantity. He always emphasized that instead of trying to produce many products, Apple needs to focus on creating really good products, perfect in every detail. It is this focus on quality that has helped Apple create products that are not only beautiful but also extremely effective, and more importantly, conquer the hearts of millions of users. Steve Jobs is not only an icon in the technology industry, but also a great inspiration for those who want to improve their English skills. Here are some tips that you can apply to improve your English listening skills through Steve Jobs stories and speeches. 1. Listen to Jobs speeches. Steve Jobs is famous for his highly inspirational speeches. You can start with his famous speeches, such as the Stanford Commencement Address in 2005. This is an emotional speech, sharing about his life, career, and failures. To improve your English listening skills, you can listen to this speech many times and pay attention to his expression, intonation, and how he highlights important points. Active listening, don't just listen. Focus on each word and intonation of Jobs. Pay attention to new vocabulary that you don't know and write them down to learn more. Listen and write back. You can try listening to a short passage and writing down what you hear. Then, compare it with the original to check the accuracy. This will help you improve your ability to listen to details and understand English grammar. 2. Break down the content and listen again. When you start practicing listening, you don't need to listen to a whole long speech. Instead, break the content into short parts and listen to each part. You can listen to a 1 to 2 minute passage, then listen to it again many times until you feel you have understood the content. Listen again and check vocabulary. After listening to a passage, stop and learn new vocabulary that you don't understand. Then, listen to that passage again and pay attention to how Jobs uses these words in context. Gradually increase the difficulty. At first, you can listen slowly, then gradually increase the speed to get used to the way native speakers speak quickly. 3. Learn pronunciation and intonation. One of the reasons why English learners have difficulty listening is because they are not familiar with the intonation and pronunciation of native speakers. Steve Jobs is a great example of how to use intonation to emphasize important points in a speech. His intonation is very natural and inspiring. Mimic, try to imitate Jobs' intonation. This will not only help you improve your listening skills but will also help you pronounce words correctly and speak English more naturally. Pay attention to stress and intonation. When listening to Jobs speak, pay attention to how he emphasizes words and how his voice rises and falls in each sentence. Try to copy these points to improve your listening and pronunciation. 4. Incorporate stories and related vocabulary. One of the reasons why you can easily understand and learn from Steve Jobs' story is because his story is very easy to relate to real-life vocabulary and topics. Vocabulary related to technology, startups, innovation, and leadership will help you not only learn English but also gain a deeper understanding of the industry, life, and core values. Create a vocabulary list. After listening to a speech by Steve Jobs, create a list of vocabulary that you do not know and learn how to use them in sentences. This will not only help you improve your listening skills but also improve your English communication skills. Steve Jobs' life and career is a testament to the power of self-belief, relentless perseverance, and creative spirit to overcome all difficulties. From major failures such as being fired from the company he founded, Jobs not only restored but also developed Apple into one of the most prominent brands in the world. The lessons of self-confidence, constant innovation, and the ability to learn from failure have become core values that we can apply not only in work but also in learning English or any other skill. Steve Jobs' story is not only inspirational to those who want to become creators, but also to those who seek to improve themselves, learn, and never give up. 5 tips for you. 1. Believe in yourself and your passion. As Steve Jobs proved, when you believe in yourself and pursue your passion, you will always have the strength to overcome challenges. When learning English, it is important to keep faith in your abilities. Don't worry about initial mistakes. Consider them part of the learning process. 2. Accept failure and learn from it. Steve Jobs never considered failure as the end. Instead, he saw each failure as an opportunity to improve and grow. When learning English, you will encounter many challenges. Don't be discouraged when you don't understand a listening passage or have difficulty with pronunciation. Learn from those mistakes and improve every day. 3. Focus on quality instead of quantity. Jobs always focused on quality instead of quantity. When learning English, don't just worry about learning a lot of vocabulary or doing a lot of exercises. Instead, focus on learning vocabulary and grammar in depth, which will help you use the language naturally and accurately. 4. Improve your listening skills through regular practice. Listening to and learning from Steve Jobs' speeches is a great way to improve your English listening skills. Find his speeches and listen to them over and over again. When you listen repeatedly, it will not only improve your listening skills but also help you get used to the natural intonation and speaking style of native speakers. 5. Don't be afraid to challenge and be creative. Finally, remember that being creative and challenging yourself is the way to improve. Steve Jobs was constantly looking for new ways to work, create, and solve problems. When learning English, don't hesitate to try new learning methods, new topics, and especially communicating with native speakers. This will help you improve faster and more effectively. Underscore 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 underscore. Inspiration from Steve Jobs' story can not only change the way you learn English but also help you look at life and work with a new perspective. Never stop trying, learning and creating to overcome all your own limits. Thank you for following the inspiring story of Steve Jobs and the valuable lessons he left us. As we have seen, his life is not only about creativity or technology, but also about perseverance, overcoming difficulties and never stopping learning. Steve Jobs' story is a great source of motivation, not only for success in work but also for self-improvement, especially in the journey of learning English. Remember, like Steve Jobs, you can overcome any challenge if you believe in yourself and persevere with your goals. Apply the lessons from this story to your English learning and always find ways to improve, no matter what difficulties you are facing. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to receive more inspiring stories and effective English learning tips in the following videos. Share this video with your friends to develop your English skills together. Wishing you continued progress, and don't forget, never settle for anything less than extraordinary. See you in the next videos.